Hello and welcome in to another episode of Main Street Preps this week. I'm Russell Venozzi, joined by Tyler Palmatier. We're back to talk spring sports across the Nashville area. Tyler, I was at a baseball game on Sunday just for fun, and then I covered another one on Tuesday. And spring and summer's right around the corner when you start busting out the sunscreen, and that's where I'm at now.
Where did you go Sunday?
It's been nice to have some feasibly warm. I was at the Vanderbilt baseball game, and it was
okay.
Sun was beaten down, even though it was only about 70. So I knew I needed to come prepared with some protection there. But
no, that was a beautiful day.
So finally have some warmer temperatures, and yeah. So we are going to talk about some of these sports that are happening out there and in this great weather. Our featured guest today in just a moment is going to be Brentwood boys soccer coach Mike Purcell, and then we're going to close the show with some spring sports shout outs and updates from around the area. But before we get to all that, I want to let everybody know that this podcast is sponsored by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Fans don't let fans drive drunk. Let's go ahead and bring in longtime Brentwood boys soccer coach Mike Purcell. Now his team is off to a great start this season. He's going to join us by phone. Mike, thanks for being here today.
It's a pleasure, gentlemen.
So, Mike, you couldn't have asked for a better start to the year. You guys are 8-0. I believe you've outscored your opponents 37-6. You've got wins over defending state champions from Alabama, Oklahoma, South Carolina. The list goes on. How has your team been able to begin this year so well, especially after the way you guys ended it last year with a state championship?
Normally, after a state championship year, you might think a team would be down, and we did lose 7 seniors. But we got a really good incoming group this year, some really talented freshmen, a couple of kids that came in as sophomores and juniors. So we knew early in preseason that we had the potential to be pretty good. And starting the season off in Gatlinburg at that tournament that's the second year in a row we've done it. And it's been a really good test from the get-go because you're put in a situation playing teams like the Alabama team we played had already played 10 games when we played them, and that was our first game of the season. So our goal was to go up there and do well, and we did. And that kind of kickstarts the mental aspect of it, and we've continued to play pretty well.
Yeah, Mike, and this is year number 21 as a soccer coach for you. You have just turned 72, I believe. Is that right?
I have, and yes, it is here at Brentwood. So
right,
I've been doing it a little longer than that, but that's the story here at Brentwood. Correct.
What keeps you coming back?
The fear of not having anything to do if I don't come back. I'm not really. I think if I retired, I would have to get a job. So I'm just going to continue to work, and I enjoy it. I still teach half a day and then get to coach in the afternoon. So it's a pretty cool gig. I mean, and my enthusiasm for the game hasn't died out any. And I like working with kids, and we got really great assistant coaches to work with. That both of them used to play here. So it's just a good environment and one that's wholesome and positive. And I can retire later. I'm not really interested in that.
Yeah, the golf courses aren't going anywhere, are they, Mike? They'll still be there whenever you want to take some time off.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know what I would do, but so I'm here. That's what I'm doing. That's my retirement. It's a good gig.
So yeah, no, you're in a good spot there, and I'm not sure how much you guys really. I'm sure you don't put a ton of stock into this, but in the latest United Soccer Coaches Top 25 national rankings, Brentwood came in at number 5. Just with how things are going so far, and kind of given where this team is at, how high are the expectations this year, and how are your players sort of embracing those expectations?
Well, it's kind of weird. I mean, those rankings are kind of hard to figure out, and I think Max Preps has another one where we were ranked number 2, but they're kind of cool to look at. And we have found over the years, if you're going to be ranked in those polls, you need to play out-of-state teams. And, we try to get our first 7 games, 4 of them were out-of-state teams. So it's a good exposure for the program. And some years it's not so good when you lose. But the last couple of years, we've been fortunate enough to beat some teams from other states. As far as the ranking themselves, like I said, they're kind of subjective. I don't know if there's anybody that could rank the high school teams in the country. I mean, our goal is to do as good as we did last year. And the definitive ranking in Tennessee is whether or not you win the state championship. And all that other stuff is kind of fun to deal with, but it's also kind of a pain because, every game is kind of people give us really good games, and we appreciate that. But it can be burdensome sometimes. You can't let up.
And Mike, I remember you last year. You were singing Jack Boring's presence, or his praises, I should say, after he finished with 9 goals and 10 assists as a midfielder at a sophomore. And just curious, what do you think he's built on that this year?
Well, he's got 5 goals, 3 assists for the first 7 games or 8 games. But he's a type of midfielder that can make you or break you. And when he's on, and he is on 99% of the time, he can dominate a game. This year, however, we have a couple other midfielders that are complementing him to where it's not all on him. And he plays looser, and he's just a very, very smart player, a very strong player, has a wicked shot, and very, very driven. So he's definitely grown since his sophomore years, and I'm sure that'll continue on into his senior year, but extremely important part of the team.
And a player you've got back for his senior year is Thomas Fields there at goalkeeper after posting 11 shutouts last season. How much confidence does that give the rest of the team, Mike, knowing that you've got a stone wall back there in net?
Thomas is, and our defense also in particular, the back four, it's hard to imagine them. I mean, we do get scored on, and that's going to happen. Shutouts are nice, but it's not realistic for everybody all the time. To think of us giving up more than 1 goal a game in his mind would be, he just doesn't think that way. And his, he wants to get a shutout. Defense wants to shut out. It's a team shutout when we get those. But there's such a high level of confidence back there, even when we give up a goal, that we know we're going to get it back. And I think against Daphne, we gave up a goal in the first 3 or 4 minutes. And then, got 5 after that. So there wasn't any, it's just one of those things. You give up one, we'll get it back. And since they don't give up any, we don't have to give them any back. But very confident keeper, very confident defense.
Another guy, Mike, senior forward Cooper Bailey, always nice to have one of those seniors that just aggressive offensively. And you certainly had that last year and a couple guys that moved on. But Cooper, he got 6 goals last year, and he already had 7 through your first 4 games. What's he doing differently?
Well, today he's got 11 goals, 5 assists, which exceeds last year. He's just a beast. He's a big kid. He's fast. He's aggressive. And he's not I think he was a little bit overshadowed by a couple of other guys last year who got the spotlight, like Aiden Parker. But he's been our main threat up top. Makes really good runs, has a great shot, and it's super, super good attitude. And he's having a really fun year. I mean, he wants to have a good time, and he's loose. And he's certainly made a difference with the offense. But then again, he's got a lot of good support this year. We're just pretty deep, and there's no pressure on him, and because if he doesn't get, somebody else will.
You alluded to this a few moments ago, but when you've got a good team, of course, everybody that you play is trying to knock you off. And in soccer, there's a wide variety of tactics teams can use to sort of try to control the pace and control the game. I'm curious whether it's been this year or one of these years in the past when you guys had a really good team. What are some of the strangest strategies teams have used against you guys to try to slow you down?
One of them is they park the bus and they just put everybody in the box, or they'll put 10 guys back basically and just frustrate us, try to frustrate us, and it is frustrating, and pack the box, pack their third of the field, and then play for whatever they can get on a long ball or a break or a mistake. We've had several of those this year, and the key there is the patience to know that you're not going to get as many good chances. You're going to get plenty of chances, but they're not going to be quite as open as other chances. And you got to work the ball around and possess, and we try to do that anyway. Other tactics, it's physical games are pretty common, but that's normal. There's not a whole lot you can do. Mainly if we're on, it's hard to stop us. But if we get frustrated or another team parks a bus like that, it can take a while to get into the game to the point where we're going to make that breakthrough. And occasionally, like the Daphne team scored early on us, and that happens. But we have good bounce backs. We have pretty good patience right now, and I think we'll need to do better on that as we get deeper into the season, and particularly if we make it into the postseason. We want to be prepared for whatever they're going to throw at us.
Mike, got one more question for you, and then we're going to let you go. It's been a pleasure having you, but I'm going to kind of call an audible on my last question. You told me last year that you get a tattoo for every state championship you win, and you're at I believe 5, and you don't look like you're slowing down anytime soon. If you keep winning, you're going to look like a motorcycle gang member or something. But what tattoo did you get last year after that state title?
Last year I got the number 41, which was one of those weird ones. At the beginning of the season, one of the guys had noticed some poll had ranked us 41 in the state, and it kind of aggravated. So that was their kind of rallying thing for the year. They put number 41 on everything. And so that was going to be the tattoo if we won state. And so I have a 41 on my arm, which looks kind of ridiculous, and it makes no sense to anybody. And so I've got I have no idea if we get that far this year. I'll let them choose it as long as it's not something like a battleship. I'll be okay with
it. Well, let's hope for your sake that it's nothing too eccentric there that's going to ring up a big bill at the tattoo parlor. But Mike, we appreciate your time. Congrats on a good start to the season. We're looking forward to seeing how it all shakes out down the stretch here.
Good deal. Thank you so much. Enjoyed it.
Thanks, Mike.
That has been longtime Brentwood boys soccer coach Mike Purcell. Good conversation there. We're going to take a quick break and then come back with some spring sports talk. So stick around.
It was just a few drinks. I'm good.
I thought it was good.
After every game, we always have a few. It's no big deal. It was no big deal.
Hey, I can hold my liquor. I thought I could hold my liquor.
It's just a few cocktails at happy hour.
It was just a few cocktails at happy hour.
You really good try.
There aren't any cops around. I didn't think there were any cops around.
I drink and drive all the time.
Sir, you've been in a serious crash. I need you to hang on, okay? Cover your name, sir. Where you are right now?
So at the top of the show, I mentioned that I got to see Vanderbilt baseball play on Sunday. They swept Georgia. Great start to SEC play for them. 9-0, have not lost yet. But one day later, Tyler, you got to see a potential future Vanderbilt player pitch at Hawkins Field, Ethan McIlvain over at Nolensville. What'd you glean from that performance? And I know you got to catch up with him afterwards and kind of pick his brain about where he's at and everything with, of course, the MLB draft potentially looming for him later this summer.
Yeah, that was my first time seeing him. It was definitely impressive. I mean, he has a fastball that is just at this level really difficult to hit. What did he go? 6 innings in the run rule win, 2 hits, 11 strikeouts, 1 walk. I know that his coach, Zach Hudson, said the one walk was really big because he's really kind of a swing and miss type pitcher. He has a good breaking ball too, which is good. And of course, his brother threw at Vandy, so he's very familiar with that stadium. And we didn't touch too much on that MLB decision. You know, normally you ask any guy in college or high school what they're thinking about the next step in the middle of their year, and there's not a whole lot to really discuss. Everybody's kind of waiting. There's not a whole lot for them to really think about, I guess, until after the year. But certainly, just super impressed with him and what he's able to do. And he seems like a really mature kid. And Hudson said he's really dealing with the outside noise, I guess we would call it, the decision part really well. And Nolensville's got a good baseball team too. I thought they played really hard, and obviously 11 runs, they could swing the bat a little bit. Russell, did you ever see his, I haven't been around forever. Did you ever see his brother? How much did you see his brother? And I assume you've seen Ethan before. Am I right?
Yes. Yes to both. Of course, his brother, Chris McIlvain, got drafted by the Reds last year. Saw him pitch quite a bit, just kind of watching Vanderbilt games and all that. And he started his career as more of a reliever, but then worked his way into being one of their key guys, key starters. And yeah, so here's kind of, without having any kind of insider knowledge, here's just what I'll just lay out some of the facts here. So Ethan, as we know, as far as all the stats we've got online, he's the hardest thrower around here consistently. Like that fastball you're talking about was clocked at 95 miles an hour by Perfect Game at one of their showcases last year. Those are usually pretty good numbers to rely on, because sometimes, the radar guns run hot, especially if you're talking about maybe not like a verified official or somebody. Like if it's just a dad with a radar gun, some of those cheaper ones may not be super accurate. But anyways, he's been clocked at 95. He's a left-hander. He's 6'4". Perfect Game has him as a 10 out of 10 on their player rating system. And just for context, like if you're a 10, that is given to players that are expected to be elite college guys and or potential very high draft picks. So he grades out well across the spectrum. The left-handed aspect of it works in his favor even more, just because there's less left-handed pitchers. They're at a premium really at all levels, especially in the pros. So that'll big time in his favor. He's currently not listed in MLB.com's top 100 draft prospects for this upcoming draft. That's not necessarily a bad thing, because those were basically preseason rankings. So things changed quite a bit over the spring and summer. But just to kind of put that in perspective, Vanderbilt does have some commitments on that list, including Max Clark, who's been committed for a while. He's number 6. So somebody like Max Clark, pretty unlikely to make it to Vanderbilt. Versus Ethan McIlvain, it seems like, just looking at some of these preliminary rankings, the fact that his brother went there and had such a good experience there, and he upped his draft stock and everything in 3 seasons. And the opportunity to potentially play at the College World Series, the opportunity to play close to home, just reading into all that, it seems like Vanderbilt is probably where he'll end up. But like I said, a lot can change. Draft stuff. Sometimes, a team will throw out a signing bonus number that's just too good to pass up. But all that said, I'm leaning towards saying that probably wasn't his last start at Vanderbilt. He'll probably get there, but he certainly has the caliber and the pedigree to be a high draft pick, just based on what we know right now.
Yeah, definitely. If you're a Vanderbilt fan, I think there's probably more good signs than there are not there. Another game I saw, yes, I did back-to-back baseball games this week so far. I'm going to write about it a little later today, so I'm not going to give away all the details. But went out to watch CPA at Innsworth, and ended up being a great game. CPA came out on top, and I guess all I can say is London Humphreys, who is a Vanderbilt football commitment, can do a lot more than just football. He's chasing state records in track. He jumped. I don't remember the distance, but a day before the game, I think took first place in the long jump, and then comes back. And I'll just say this: he saved the game with a huge hit in the 8th inning, and was able to come out on the mound and finish things out. So it's just really impressive what Humphreys does as an athlete. I don't think it's a stretch to say he's one of the best athletes in the state, pound for pound, when you just look at the things he does. It may not, I'm not saying it's not like a guy that's projected to go necessarily pro or anything, but like what he's doing right now is super impressive. And CPA's got a good baseball team again.
Yeah, his ascension was really something to watch, especially because he really only played the 2 years of football at CPA. And I remember the first time I sort of heard about him, I guess it was during the 2021 football season. I was out there for one of CPA's games. I remember asking Cade Law, their quarterback, of course, who's now a catcher at Vanderbilt on the baseball team, just said right off the jump, hey, I think London's going to be an SEC receiver. And at the time, of course, he didn't have any offers. He was just kind of starting to make some noise on the football field. And lo and behold, here we are. He's turned into this incredible athlete in every sport, and he's going to play football at Vanderbilt on a scholarship next fall. So that's been pretty fun to watch. His kind of rise over the past couple of years. And while you were over at CPA, I was over at Davidson Academy, where Good Pasture was playing them in baseball. And this is another team, Good Pasture, that is kind of like Brentwood soccer, coming off a state title and then coming into this year, not really missing a beat. They're 13-2. They've lost to Summit and Clarksville Academy, had kind of a couple wonky innings go against them. And otherwise they might be looking at still being undefeated at this point. But anyways, really impressed with what they've got over there at Good Pasture. They've got really a lot of their top guys back from last season. There's Carson Rucker, Tennessee commitment right there in the middle of the lineup. You've got two-way players all the way around. Logan Harrell, he can pitch, he can hit, he can catch. Jaron Elkins can play the outfield, can pitch, can catch, can hit, can steal bases. Connor Martin is kind of their ace, and he also hits and plays the field some. Tanner Lane is a first baseman, also pitches, hit a home run yesterday. They've just got, I think that's really kind of the most interesting thing about their team is that they've got all these players that can do so many things. And, they've got enough depth to where they probably wouldn't have to do that. Like, it's not necessarily out of necessity that all these guys are playing 3 or 4 different positions, but it's just, they're just talented and they're able to play all those different spots. So Good Pasture off to a good start. And then also was notified by Ethan Robinson's dad that he threw a no-hitter yesterday. So looked up that stat line. Sure enough, walked just 3 batters, struck out 12 in a 5-0 win over Mount Juliet Christian. So that's it's kind of the theme of this segment here. Another Vanderbilt commitment there in Ethan Robinson, and off to a good start this year.
Yeah, probably just need to give Vanderbilt some credit for, I know in-state kids and especially Nashville area kids are well aware of the program, and obviously Vandy has plenty of momentum and there's a lot to like about going there, but it seems like they do a pretty good job of keeping kids around. It's going to be especially important moving forward. With Tennessee's rise over there in Knoxville, there's a lot to like also about where that program's going. So that's a big time performance from Robinson last night. There's been kind of a couple of great performances so far this week. Kind of going down the list. Let's go to track. I mean, Mincy Stiff, I was telling somebody the other day, I've written about her a lot, and they've all just been about broken records. And that is because after breaking her shot put yesterday, her shot put record with a 52-foot, 2.5-inch throw, that's now 5 times she's broken the state shot put record since 2021. And in 2021, that was a 37-year-old record. So we're obviously familiar with what Mincy does, but it just never kind of ceases to amaze me how she keeps getting a little bit better every year. She's an Ole Miss commitment, won multiple Nike national championships, which is kind of the pinnacle for what she does. And it's just going to be really fun to see where her career goes. And track's not something that a ton of people follow closely, but she has a chance to really have a special career after this too. So I thought that was pretty interesting for Mincy. I'll have to find a new angle beyond the records at some point because she's probably likely to break another one, also a discus thrower. So I'll have to come up with another fun angle or something for Mincy, because she definitely deserves the coverage.
Yeah, no pun intended. You're starting to sound like a broken record with all those Mincy Stiff updates. But,
well done.
Yeah. Congrats to her though. That's pretty awesome. And then on the softball front, looks like we had a pretty good battle too there down in Williamson County.
Yeah. Yeah, that was great. 2-0 Nolensville win, 30 strikeouts total between Brentwood pitcher Marina Mason and Nolensville pitcher Rylan Smith. Look at the strikeout numbers. Smith had 17, Mason had 13, and each of them recorded 3 hits apiece on offense. Kind of interesting to see where that goes. Both those teams look like they're pretty good. Nolensville came close to the state tournament last year, so we'll kind of see what happens. I need to get out to a softball game soon because there's a lot of talent out there. I know Bailey Shepard, I believe, had a big game for DCA recently too. And DCA, another team that figures to kind of be in the mix there for the D2 single A, state tournament. We also had a couple good, or I should say, recent football commitments. Russell, FRA offensive tackle Luke Masterson committed to UNC over the weekend. It's a player that's really risen, and you talk about the yardage that he helped clear last year for Ty Clark on the ground with some help from Joe Crocker, who's headed to Louisville. And it's pretty impressive how far he's come. Masterson is very large. It's 6'6". You got to think at the age he's at, maybe he could get one more inch. He's 6'6", 275, I believe. I saw his last listing. So that's a guy that's going to be able to clear some space. It's hard to watch the offensive line when you're out there at a high school football game. We're focused on the plays that we'll obviously need to write about, but sometimes I like to. It's fun to watch. If you watch the correct side that these guys are on, you can tell how valuable they are, and that's been a great addition for Justin Geisinger to get Justin Geisinger out at FRA too, because obviously he has a great offensive mind and also a really good offensive line knowledge there.
Yeah, no, and for Ty Clark to have been running behind Joe Crocker and Luke Masterson too, now eventual ACC offensive lineman, that kind of explains sort of why he had a great season. I know he's talented in his own right, picking up some offers too, but that was a really good group for Geisinger to start with there, and tells us more about why FRA was able to have kind of some instant success there in that tough division. And
for sure.
Sort of staying in that division too, Tyler, another lineman, defensive lineman, Davidson Academy's Glenn Seabrooks committed to Vanderbilt shortly after the baseball game last night. So he actually plays baseball as well. First baseman, third baseman, pitcher, another one of those utility guys. And I believe he had a single up the middle yesterday. So I saw him there, and then saw the tweet later on in the night that he's going to go to Vanderbilt. And I know this is a guy you wrote about last year. He's the rare lineman that actually serves as the team's punter too.
Yeah, you hit it on the head with his athleticism. No wonder they're interested in him at his size to be that good of an athlete out there punting and ripping singles up the middle. I wouldn't be surprised if they had him at like leadoff or something. Not really, but he's just that kind of athlete. There's just not a whole lot of guys out there like that. So pretty cool. He'll be another fun one to watch, and he was a great kid to talk to as well.
So that's what we know. And hopefully next week we'll have more updates to share. But between now and then, we'll have tons of stories coming to mainstreetpreps.com from all across the area. So be sure to check that out. Tyler, any last thoughts before we get out of here?
Nope, none. Let's just let's get out and enjoy the weather while we can in between what I'm sure will be plenty of rainouts.
Yeah. And severe weather on the docket potentially later this week too. So everybody stay safe out there, and we'll see you next time here on Main Street Preps this week. Oh, want to add too. Hold on. Can't forget the ad read. Want to remind everybody that this podcast is sponsored by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Fans don't let fans drive drunk. Remember the ad read this time. So that's big, but that's right. Going to do us now on Main Street Preps this week. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.